So what does it take to repair a rusty motorcycle fuel tank? Well, your motorcycle's gonna be done for a week. It's gonna take about 5 hours of your time. It's gonna give you arm workout that's gonna make Arnold Schwarzenegger jealous.
Son of a bitch.
And if you don't do it properly, you're gonna have to start the process all over again. Rusty fuel tanks they're not easy repairs. And there are a lot of pitfalls and traps that can damage the tank and, well, put a big dent in your pocketbook. With hundreds of products out there on the market, which ones do you choose? Which ones will last and which ones will fail? And if they fail, they can create really big messes. Well, I'm gonna show you right here on Hydroframe Concepts. When it comes to restoring classic motorcycles, you're going to run into an issue where your tank is going to be rusty or it's going to be full of varnish, and you're going to have to fix it. You're going to have to figure it out because you're either going to buy a used one or a new one that's probably not available anymore. The paint color is not going to match, or there's going to be something. If you do clear out the rust in them and you don't seal it, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back fast because the metal has basically already been compromised. So you really have to seal it or do something to protect the metal, because no matter what that you do, even if you keep the fuel tank full of fuel, you're not going to eliminate moisture from getting inside the fuel tank just because of condensation and everything. On this fuel tank, I had a pretty unique situation where the corner of the fuel tank, particularly down in here, rusted out because water is heavier than fuel. And even though there was fuel in the gas tank, because all the condensation from the 11 years that this bike had been parked, it rusted out in the corner where the water sat. And there is hundreds of fuel tank liners out there, and a lot of them are going to fail, and they're going to cause just nasty issues. They can even destroy your tank to where you have to replace it. I've used two in the past restoring a Harley fuel tank, and one of them was Caswell epoxy coating system. And the problem I had with that system was that when the tank expands and contracts, and you got to remember that these tanks sit over your motor, so they're getting a lot of heat as well. For whatever reason, the liner failed, and it just was just a bunch of jagged, really sharp edges in there, and stuck to the side. It took me a long time to clean out the fuel tank, and I almost lost the fuel tank because it was so bad. So definitely anything that's epoxy system, it's gonna fail. I used Red Kote. Red Kote it failed like literally within a month, and I pulled the whole thing out with a pair of pliers. So it works as a liner system, but it does not do well, today's fuels. So a lot of Harley guys, they try to push it. I don't know why they're so closely attached to the Red Kote system, but I don't like it. It's terrible. KBS says that, hey, these coatings can last all the way up to 20 years with no failures. The only way you're gonna get this stuff out, pouring battery acid in your tank to remove it. It's that tough. There's no other companies that I read that are even come close to the amount of durability that this coating provides. And so if you've ever had one of these sealers fail, you never want to do it again, because it just sucks. This stuff is so tough. It will take all types of fuels, and it's amazing. It's really good stuff. It's been a lifesaver for me, and I really don't recommend sealing tanks because just of the amount of labor and time that it goes into it, and the possibility that they could, fail too. Now, if you're coating, if you put too much of a coating inside your tank, you're gonna end up with a situation with a big bubble at your tank like that. Now I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna try to puncture that bubble just with a pair of pliers right here, okay? And I was able to break it, but it is like, holy smokes, man. Damage I can do. I can't even pull it out. It's like super stuck in there. And it still has elasticity. It's not like rock hard, but it's hard with flexibility. It's like, wow. It's incredible. So first thing you're gonna use is gonna be your degreaser. You can use this with chain links. I prefer chain links because you don't have to go fishing them all out of the sides. You don't have to worry about rock starring your paint because the tips of the bolts and stuff can rock star your paint from the inside out. And then it can get lodged in all the pinch welds, like all the pinch welds around here, and then cause lots of issues. If you end up with a bunch of stuff around all the pinch welds and you go seal the tank, you're going to compromise your coating. So chain links, don't use rocks and stuff because you have an anti-splash neck up here. You're not going to get the stuff out the bottom. It's going to be extremely difficult. Just use chain links, it'll save you a ton of time, it'll do the job just fine. So once you do that with the degreaser, you're going to dump the degreaser in here, you're going to fill this full of water. It doesn't have to be distilled water, and then you're going to pour that in there. So 2 bottles, one of the degreaser and one of water in here. That's going to soak for 24 hours. Once that's done, you'll then rinse your tank out, and you're moving on to your blast right here. This is your rust blaster. It has a zinc phosphate in it to protect the metal from flash rust until you get to the tank sealer. All right, so you're gonna use this full strength, no water, pour that in there. And then once that's in there with your chain links, you're gonna rotate that puppy around, and you're gonna do that for the next 24 hours. Actually, hold on, you only need to use the product a maximum of 2 hours. It actually works really fast. It's not like your typical white vinegar or evapo-rust or even muriatic acid. So you don't need to wait 24 hours to actually have the product work. Now you can dump it out through a strainer and then reuse it again if your tank is really bad, and then go for another. You'll just, every time you see the tank, rotate it and spin it. Now for the top, while you're doing all this, you want to use cellophane over top of this and then close it. That'll be fine. I used an old petcock for the bottom. You can use cellophane if you want to do that, or a Ziploc bag at the bottom, and then just tie it off with a rubber band, and that'll be fine for that. Okay, so once all your blast is done, right? You're gonna rinse your tank out, see little bits, maybe you can see some flash rust in there. That's not a big deal. The manufacturer says that's okay. But you don't wanna have any, flakes that's gonna be coming off in there. Very important is that you have to make sure that this tank is dry, absolutely dry. And I would, recommend that it sits overnight, and then you use some sort of heat gun to dry your tank out. And then make sure that your tank is dry. Because once you use this, this is cured by moisture. So you have to make sure that no moisture is inside your tank. Don't do it on rainy days and stuff. I live in the state of Washington, so I have no choice. And the guys on the East Coast, well, you have a bunch of humidity there, so, and I've used this in Missouri. It does cook off a lot faster. So you'll have about 45 minutes, and then it's gonna get, pretty rock hard. So for this 5-gallon tank, a pint for this one, it seemed to work out actually fairly well. There was definitely some that was left over. And with the leftovers down there at the bottom, you're not gonna be, because you have the anti-splash neck here, you're not gonna be able to dump it, just turn the tank over and dump it out. And in the bottom, you have some metal plates that are kind of bent up. And so you're not gonna get the sealer all the way out just by tipping, the tank. So what I did, this is a metal claw with some paper towel on it. I just stuck that in the tank all the way down to the bottom, and I pushed the fluid out the hole. And then once this became soaked, I just grabbed a new paper towel, put it on there, and did the same thing until I didn't have any excess down there in the bottom. And you've been rotating this thing for 30 minutes. Like 30 minutes, you're gonna be married to this tank, rotating this thing around, and
Once your arms get tired, you just put it back down, catch a breath, and then do it again. And after that 30 minutes is done, you're going to make sure that this tank is still moving every 10 minutes or so, because the product is still going to move in there for at least the next 2 hours, and you don't want to build any collection spots down inside your tank. So make sure that you rotate the tank on the left, right side, front, nose, back, upside down, whatever way it is. Just make sure that it's the opposite every time you rotate it. You won't have any issues if you do that. So 2 hours, keep rotating it, and then take a look inside your tank and make sure nothing's moving around as you're tipping it back and forth. And then once there's nothing moving around, you gotta let it dry 96 hours at least, put fuel in it, and you're good to go.